Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, The Other Side of Addiction is a podcast that explores various aspects of addiction, potentially focusing on personal stories and recovery, scientific perspectives, societal impacts, and related topics. This podcast often features discussions with experts, individuals in recovery, therapists, and advocates to offer insight and support to those affected by addiction or seeking more information about it. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richardson. Today, we're going to be talking about brain first approach to lasting recovery with two amazing individuals from Emergo Academy, Dave and Susan Kenney. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, it's great to be with you,
Great
buddy.
to be with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. My gosh, you guys are doing so many cool things. And I love the very beginning how we talked about the brain first approach.
Mhm.
Because when I do some of my public speaking, matter of fact, I just came from an early morning networking group. And when I say my little 60-second spill, I let people know that people just don't wake up one day and go, you know what? I'm going to be a heroin addict, or I'm going to be an alcoholic, or I'm going to be addicted to gambling. That is just the Band-Aid. They're suffering from something within. And with you guys talking about the brain first approach, I mean, if you guys could see me, literally, I got goosebumps right now because I really believe that's where it has to hit because there's something inside that's causing all this other crap, correct?
Correct. Absolutely. So many, many years ago, 2008, we had the idea that when people are struggling, just exactly what you said, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want this. In fact, quite the opposite. We all want to be successful. Everybody wants to have success in the day. So what happens? And with that thought, what if the brain drives all behavior, which science absolutely indicates that the brain drives the mind and that drives all behavior, then what if we changed the brain? Like, how could we influence the brain? How could we physically impact the function? And would that then result in the person being able to make different choices? And as it turns out, that was an absolute yes.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said too, right? It's scientific proof.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was actually even saying this to someone this morning. I said they did a study here from what I was told. I haven't really investigated and I really need to. It was probably 20, 30 years ago when they did this up at the University of Utah. They brought people in who suffered from all types of addiction. They put them in a room, hooked all the electrodes up to their head, put them in front of that addiction. Their study found out the brain fires the exact same way. Didn't matter what the addiction was, the brain fired the exact same way. So
Right.
it proved then it wasn't the substance or the thing,
Right.
you know?
So we ran a private residential recovery program for about a dozen years, 2,000 people through the door, team of upwards of 26, 27 people. So it was a significant program. And what we would do on on a mission day is a couple hours after they've adjusted and settled in, or the next morning, we would interview them and talk with them. And one of the big questions, we want to get to know, hear the story, and just listen. A lot of practice empathetic and compassionate listening. But one of the questions was, if we had a magic wand, if this pen right here was a magic wand, and boom, I can help you get rid of one thing right now. And now we're talking people with depression, anxiety, suicide attempts, and ideation, massive years of addiction and destruction in their life,
Depression,
de-
anxiety.
inability to leave their home. We're
Yeah.
talking significant life challenges. So here it is. One opportunity. Here's the magic wand. What's the one thing I can help you get rid of for the rest of your life? And they look at me, 9 out of 10. More than 90% of 2,000 people would say, Dave, I don't care about all that. I just want to be happy. It's stunning, absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
To hear that the commonality, regardless if it's a cocaine issue or if it's an anxiety issue, and a young woman in her young 20s is actually can't come out of her closet in her bedroom. It doesn't matter their background or why they ended up with us. Everybody has this desire to
Mhm.
be fulfilled, to have joy, to have peace, to have happiness. And so when you get that, then you go, okay, this is a bigger issue than the substance. And we have one of the things we have, Al, is an image to help people. Is we use the iceberg model. 10% of the iceberg outside of the water. Well, that's all the drugs. That's the storm. That's all the things that are impacting. If you get down deeper, which is where the power of an iceberg is,
Mhm.
that's where we begin to do our work, because that's where we see significant dramatic change. And you change that, all the other stuff goes away. So it's getting to a deeper level beyond alcohol, cocaine, gambling, eating
Going
food.
below the problem. So the top 10% is focusing on the problem. A lot of well-meaning people focus on the problem and trying to solve what but that's like playing whack-a-mole, right? There's going to be more problems because that's what you're focused on. So what we learned in our 12 years experience, and literally Dave and I have the most incredible gift. We lived with every person for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So our staff would come in at 6 a.m. They would leave at 11 p.m., but we were night shift for a lot of the time. And we learned things that I don't think anybody else has had the pleasure of learning, because what happens at 3 p.m. and 3 a.m. are completely different, but really, really important too. And so the gift that we were given is this insight into recovery from so many things. So as Dave said, people came to us recovering from anything. So some was substance, some were addiction to behaviors, but all of them had the commonality, like you said, life had just become unbearable and they were hopeless. There was nothing left. The families had no hope. The person that came had no hope. And so we believe, here's what we say, there's other people who do construction and there's other people who do a lot of other things. We build people. So that was always our goal, is how can we help somebody rebuild their life fundamentally? And when we taught that the brain drives behavior, people would come to us and it was like a relief, Al. Like there would be tears and the shoulders would go down, because as we say, it's not about willpower, it's not about a higher power, it's about your brain power.
Yeah.
And as soon as people understood that physically there was something wrong, like if you have a heart issue, a liver issue, a kidney issue, everybody understands that. As soon as we were able to say, your brain isn't functioning properly, and it's not functioning because of trauma. And so if we can reset the nervous system, then all of these other things are going to change in your life.
That is so cool that you said that, Susan, because I remember a guest was telling me that we have like 7 billion or 70 billion neurons in our brain, right? One of my friends even said this on one of our shows once. He goes, we have the ability to unplug a bad neuron that doesn't work for us
Mhm.
and plug it into a healthier one,
You
right? It's
bet.
just like if you're vacuuming, you plug your vacuum into an outlet that's loose, right? And your vacuum's on and off, and you unplug it and you go plug it into something that it fits better, your vacuum starts working better. Or
Right.
it's like kinking a hose, right? You take your foot
Right.
off the hose, everything opens up, it starts flowing better.
Yep.
So we have that ability. What's crazy is, and you guys correct me, please, because you guys are the professionals. I look at it as it's our subconscious mind protecting us, right? Because it doesn't know whether it's real or fake, right? It just knows that this is how we're feeling. I got to protect you now. So I'm going to release more of these feelings, which actually put us in the closet, like Dave was talking about with that young lady. When we start retraining that brain and start looking at different ways of thought, it sounds so simple, and almost in a way it is. However, we fight ourselves for it, because I did a coaching thing about 2 months ago with some friends that I met, a couple just like you guys, amazing, amazing individuals. They're with Light Force World, Jen and Carrick, and they live here in Salt Lake. And I was talking about some things that I believe I have not forgiven people for, because I do my best to forgive, because I don't want to hang on to that baggage. I don't want to hang on to the garbage. I think I was just like what you were saying. Before I knew it, I had tears just pouring down my face
Mm.
because I was literally releasing all that because they were helping me get it out of here
Right,
finally, because I didn't realize I was hanging on to so much of it.
right, right.
First of all, you've introduced so many concepts, and I want to go to a higher level. What is really powerful, Al, what you just did is needs to happen more in the world of addiction and recovery. You just raised the bar. What
Mm.
you just did is you introduced neuroscience, you introduced psychology, and these things we know to be true and real. Neuroscience, the ability to reprogram our brain called neuroplasticity, uh, neurons connecting called Hebb's law. We can talk about all this in a minute. But we know this to be true in other areas, but the world of addictions and recovery is very slow to adopt this. And that's our book, Actualized Recovery, the brain first approach to lasting recovery. We have adopted these scientific truths that the brain is malleable. And based on my environment, my brain rewires every single day,
No, moment to moment.
moment to moment.
Yeah, moment to
So,
Wow.
moment is
so,
rewiring.
so if I hang out with some negative people,
Mhm.
because connections, that's one of our 5 principles, connections or community. If I hang out with negative people, talk about, the days I used to use, guess what I'm programming in my brain? And if I hang out with people who are talking about what they want in their life and moving forward, and it's a values-based thing, guess what my brain is hearing and rewiring?
Mhm.
But then it takes action to rewire your brain. It's not reading, it's not writing, although these are good things. It really is about action. That's what causes a neuron to fire.
Mhm.
And if you want to rewire your brain, Hebb's law, the more a neuron fires, the stronger it wires. And a great example, Al, are you left-handed or right-handed when you brush your teeth?
Right-handed.
Okay, tonight, use your left hand. It's going to be a disaster. There's
Yeah.
going to be toothpaste everywhere. So use your non-dominant hand to eat, or and that gets a little messy, so be careful, or brushing your teeth. Well, my hand is the same. Let's just take that for a minute. Hands the same, muscle structure, nerves, everything's the same. Well, what's happening is the brain is not used to using the less dominant hand. It hasn't figured out those neural connections. So the more you do it, in a week, you're going to be really good. In a month, you'll be proficient without thinking about it because now you've rewired your brain.
But it's consistent action over time.
Right.
So what Dave's saying, if you were to start brushing your teeth with the non-dominant hand, if anybody did that, you have to continue to do it. So you'd have to do it twice a day for a period of time. You can't skip a day because you're rewiring something that is already a very, very strong neural pathway. But there will be a moment where all of a sudden you pick up the toothbrush and it's just exactly like it would be brushing your teeth with your dominant hand. And
Wow.
that's what created the new
So,
neural
so
pathways.
here's my question: is the thought, is anybody listening? Why the hell are they talking about toothpaste and toothbrushes? What does that got to do with my addiction,
Yeah.
or my spouses, or my friends, or my
Right.
employees' addiction? Here's what it has to do with: is that you have to do things differently,
Right.
behaviorally, for a long period of time. And at first it's uncomfortable, like
Right.
brushing your teeth, and it can get messy, like brushing your teeth.
Right.
But in time, if you stick to this, so great example, I leave work every day, 4:30, end of my shift. I turn right, I go around the block, I go 6 blocks, same route. I pull into my favorite pub, I meet the boys, I have a couple pints. And I do that for 10 years.
Mhm.
That's my go-to. All right. Well, then when you leave the parking lot now, if you want to change your behavior, do not ride the same route and drive by the pub,
And
because
try
your
and
brain's going to
override it.
look at it, stare at the pub and go, oh my God, pulling, pulling, pulling. And it's on autopilot. And the next thing you know, you're sitting there having a beer and you didn't want that. So if you want to change your patterns, you need to then think, well, you know what? I'm going to go at the back exit of work, or I'm going to turn left from work. And then that way I'm going to make a new pattern and go to the gym, or I'm going to go to the grocery store, whatever that is. It's the same concept. This is why I applauded what you just did. You are applying concepts of neuroscience that the world of addiction has been slow to embrace. I really champion where you're going with this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And and it's really from people that I've had on my show too, right? Because they're helping me understand more about addiction. And also just I think with the life, I shared with me some personal stuff before we actually started recording, with what's happened to me and wanting to learn how to change myself as an individual and become someone better. And the way you guys explained it was so spot on. I mean, seriously, because I was at a point when I lost my job. I had always been one that stayed physical fit, always took care of myself, was always outdoor type. And I got to where I was 198 pounds and I'm 5'7". And I remember seeing my wedding pictures and I went, holy cow, I've got two chins. My gosh, look how far my stomach's sticking out of that tux. I mean, seriously, I'm beating myself up because I'm like, I've never seen myself look like that before. Looking at myself in the mirror after I get out of the shower, to me, I still looked awesome, right? Until I saw that picture. I remember when I decided to help start changing me. It's like what you just said, Dave, with me brushing my teeth with my left hand. I decided, okay, I've always been physical fit. My wife had bought me a mountain bike for Christmas. Jumped on the mountain bike and I just went around the block. About 3 weeks later, I was going around 3 blocks. About 3 months later, I was doing 3 miles. As time went, next thing I know, I'm doing 6 miles. Now, pretty soon we move and we live in an apartment complex. And now all of a sudden I'm working out in the little gym at the apartment complex. And then before I knew it, when I could finally start getting money again, I joined a gym and I was going Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And now for the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years or so, I've been going Monday through Friday. I go an hour and a half to 2 hours every single day. And if I miss a day, I go on a weekend to make up for that day because I actually feel guilty if I miss a day now, which is crazy. So basically, I did exactly what you just said. I rewired
Yes.
my brain and I got it
And,
stronger and
this
stronger.
becomes your new norm. This
Right.
is
Yeah,
easy,
Right.
and it becomes your new norm. And when you miss your new norm, you go, "Oh, this feels awkward."
yeah.
So I'll go a step further. We just moved. We got a beautiful spot here. We're in Calgary, Alberta. Gorgeous, gorgeous. My favorite Canadian city. Um, and by the way, I love Salt Lake, but we just moved here and we went on a walk about a week ago. And I went, that little strip mall over there and over there. I don't even know if there's any bars or liquor stores. And Susan went, gosh, neither
Yeah.
do I. Like,
And we'd already lived here since October 31st.
because our brain isn't looking
We're
for
not looking for it.
our brain is it's not looking for that. Here's the other one is we'll drive by fast food stores and go, did you know that there's a Burger King
Yeah,
here?
there's a Popeyes right over
What
there.
did that looks like it's been there a while, and we've
Yeah.
driven by
Have
that corner
no
500
idea.
times because your brain begins to rewire and it goes, I don't need that information. I don't need that information. And I'm not craving fast food. I'm not craving alcohol. So I'm not looking for that.
Right.
And people may have a hard time understanding because this weekend the only thought, even though they may not want to drink, the only thought may be, where do I drink? Where do I drink? Where do I drink? Well, that's because you've trained your brain that
Right.
way. And in time, as you just evidenced, those thoughts will dissipate and go away, and you replace those with new
With where's
patterns
the
of
gym?
behaviors. Yeah.
I've just moved into a new area. Where's the gym?
Yeah,
Or
And it's
right.
called the reticular activating system. So what happens in your brain?
That's good.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big
So
word.
what happens in your brain is you see what it is that you want to see, right? So it's like when you buy a yellow vehicle, all of a sudden you see all of these other yellow vehicles. Well, they were there before, but
Yeah,
it wasn't in your thought process. So as you begin to change the patterning in the brain, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And I want to introduce a thought to your listeners. We often think that you have to control the mind. I have to control my thoughts, which is impossible. You cannot control your thoughts any more than you can stop your heart from beating. So your mind is going to continue to have thoughts, but those thoughts are probably 95% of the same thoughts that you had the day before. So it actually takes you doing new things. So physiology drives psychology. So what that means is what you do physically drives and influences what your thoughts are in your mind. So as you begin to, when you talked about forgiveness, for example, I want to just go back to that. So there's the point where you felt very good and you were able to release that. When you do things physically, like writing a letter of forgiveness is a physical act. Actually picking up the phone and, connecting with somebody for forgiveness. When you do those physical acts, it allows the brain to release it faster than you just focusing on it from a mind point of view. So if that makes sense, physiology drives psychology. When you want to interrupt a pattern of anxiety or depression, it's not sitting and ruminating more about what can I do in my mind. It's getting up and going and playing basketball. It's doing dishes. It's physically interrupting that pattern or that thought with a physical act, which then changes the psychology.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because one
Mhm.
thing I did not add, and I'm glad you brought this up, Susan, because I actually wrote these feelings down on a piece of paper.
There you go.
I did front and back.
There you go.
After I was done, I went outside and put my lighter to it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
burned it, right? I did a write and burn is what I like to call it, a write and burn,
Perfect.
because I just not released it out of my
Right.
tears and thinking. I did
Right.
exactly what you said, physically writing it
Yes.
down, which physically for me is good because I remember things better when I write stuff down more than
Yes.
reading or anything else.
We all do.
Yeah, and then I
Yeah,
just
we all do.
yeah,
The brain works that way. If you physically write on paper, it remembers it
Right.
because it's having to do a motor skill more than a keyboard. Our brains actually don't recall
Yeah.
keyboarding as much as we do handwriting.
yeah.
Interesting thing. And I don't know how that's going to play out because our whole world now is keyboard.
Yeah, right. However, but you're so right, Dave. It works so flippin' well. I mean, it really, really does. And I've been battling some things in my head here lately too. And I was even thinking last night, I was so beat last night by the time I got done doing all my stuff. I'm like, I'm just gonna leave it and I'll take care of it tomorrow, which is not a good thing to do, but I did. And I gotta release it. I gotta write it down because it you just said it too. I'm replaying it constantly.
Yeah.
Now I'm catching it a lot sooner where I'm not elaborating on it for 5, 10 minutes anymore. I'm
Right.
catching it within a minute to 2 minutes and getting it out of my head and getting myself focused on other things. However, it's still playing and I need to get it out of there because it's not doing me any good.
So maybe this is helpful for you and the listeners. We were a very physically active program. So when people came to us and they stayed for 4 to 6 weeks, it was very structured. Food was very, very important, and we can talk more about what we learned. But it was doing things that were fun and doing things that were physical that actually create this momentum. And one of the things that we introduced into the program was axe throwing. Now, axe throwing,
You're going here. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. It just
I
sounds
love axe throwing. But here's when we talk to clients afterwards with our coaches, in the moment that you were throwing the axe, what were you thinking about? And they always said, well, I was thinking like lining up and holding it properly and, hitting the target and all of those things. Were there any thoughts of anxiety, any thoughts of suicide, any thoughts of cravings, anything going through your mind in that moment? Well, no. Well, then what have you learned? The more you do, that's physical, that brings you present in the moment, that has fun, that accomplishes something, is the absolute opposite of ruminating up in your head and getting caught in that thought process. So maybe you just need to go axe throwing out.
Please don't do it in your garage. Go to a
Yeah.
professional.
I don't
I'm
care
gonna,
where you do
I'm
it.
gonna, I'm gonna get into legal disclaimers, go to a professional place. But also it is well known that when we think of the past and we think of all the regrets of the past and the shame of the past, depression can
Mhm.
set in and it can be tough. Oh my God. And when we think of the future, and things ahead of us. What are we going to do about the bills or the mortgage or whatever my job? Anxiousness and anxiety can set in. This feeling of overwhelm, of anxiousness can set in.
Mhm.
When we stay in the present, which is
Mhm.
what Susan is talking about, those two worlds dissipate.
Right. And your brain goes on to this autopilot when you're doing something, whether it's washing dishes, whether you're out for a nature walk, whether you're axe throwing. It gives the brain the ability to be able to solve problems. Nothing gets solved when you're ruminating on it. In fact, it creates more of a downward spiral. So in the physical doing is when your brain actually has a chance to solve the biggest problems of your life. There's worrying must work though, and I'm going to throw this in because 90% of things never happen that you worry about.
Correct.
or
Correct.
more.
Yeah.
Well, so, but that's not why, right? It just means it was never going to happen in the first place. So you've wasted all of that time and life energy in focusing on something. And we every day we had something we called rock the house. So between 4:30 and 5:30 before we did dinner, so we had a very tight schedule of things during the day that were physical and learning and great food and all of that. But rock the house was cleaning,
Giving to the community,
right? Giving back to
to
the
our
community.
to the family or the community.
Right. And so everybody had their list of chores. We would crank music, and that was why it was called Rock the House. And for an hour, everybody worked together in community to make sure that everything was clean, organized. Way before COVID, we were wiping down light, fixtures
Yeah.
and things like that, to keep everybody
But
safe.
here's a tip for families.
Mhm.
If older kids, younger kids, spouses, whatever, I don't care if it's 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Crank your favorite music, but everybody for 10 minutes,
Has to
15 minutes
participate.
does a chore, does something.
Yeah.
And the sense of community, the sense of energy, the sense
Yeah.
of pride, and it absolutely changes the energy of how the family feels, the community feels, and how I feel personally. So we offer that to people as well.
It's like wax on, wax off. You don't know what you're doing. And there was a lot of people who didn't understand it. They would come and say, I've paid so much money to come to this program. What am I cleaning for? There should be staff cleaning. And then they would reach the point over the time with us where they realize, oh my gosh,
Structure is good.
you're rewiring my whole system. And we all feel good when we accomplish something. And when we share in that in community. So over a period of time, they get it, right? Like this wasn't punitive. This is part of the program.
So, Al, can I talk about ants for a minute?
Absolutely.
Love ants.
All right.
Don't love it.
Well, actually, I don't like. Well, I do like the real ants, but not these ants.
Okay.
So, as a little boy, I'm coming clean. As a little boy, see ants,
my
I'd go around,
gosh.
I'd squish ants.
Oh,
I
God.
don't do
my
that now,
gosh.
but as a little boy, that's what I did. Okay.
Right.
All right. But ants are, and this goes to Dr. Amon's work, and we're certified with the Amon clinics and
You have to just introduce Dr. Amon is a neuropsychiatrist.
Yes.
And he is one of the first people who actually physically looks at the brain before he makes any diagnosis.
Brain imagery.
Yeah.
And yeah, he gets 3D images of the brains.
Mhm.
And when he met us and learned about our brain first approach, he instantly said, you got to become an affiliate of us. And I went, what does that mean? And so we did. And we went through his extensive education. But one of the things he talks about and teaches is ants. Automatic negative thoughts.
Yeah.
Automatic negative thoughts, ants. Well, first of all, our brain has about 80, or mind, excuse me, has about 80,000 thoughts a day. Good luck turning that off. It's impossible. People meditate, go, I can't turn my brain off. Well, good. Nobody can.
Nobody's
Right.
So that's a misnomer, a fallacy. So embrace that. But as you pointed out at the beginning, at the very beginning of this, insightfully pointed out, your brain is hardwired to keep you alive. And back in caveman days, we had to remember where the saber-toothed tiger was, or where the village with the warriors were, or what poisonous fruit is there.
Yeah.
And so we had to remember that for evolution to stay alive. Like if I turned right and go down here, there's a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
And Bill never came back. So I better not go down that road. And if I don't remember that, I'm dead. And
Mhm.
so negative events in our life, this is why we remember the negative traumatic events more than the happy events.
Right.
Negative events are like Velcro to the brain, and happy events are like Teflon. We don't have to remember the
Right.
positive
'Cause there's no
ones
danger.
to stay alive. We have to remember what fruit is the poisonous fruit to stay alive.
Right.
So our evolution of our brain is to remember and recall more negative than positive. So out of 80,000 thoughts, it's not 40,000 negative, 40,000 positive. First of all, the bulk of them are empty, vanilla,
Neutral. Just neutral thoughts.
just like oh, it's bright out. I mean, like there's nothing to that thought. And yet then the bulk of them after that are negative, and then a small percentage or small portion are positive. So how do I change these automatic negative thoughts? Because they're automatic. They come to my brain all the time. And sometimes it's like a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
So the first thing I got to do is I got to crush the ant. Boom. I crush the ant by challenging it. I'm too fat. I'm a loser. I'm broke. I can't get a job. So, I'm a drunk.
Or you're blaming others.
Or you're
right?
blaming others.
Those I have no responsibility or accountability.
But let's say I can't get a job. So you crush that by saying no. And if you have to physically out loud say no, then do it. Talk to yourself. No, that's not true. There, I just crushed the ant. I'm challenging the ant.
And
then you got to ask the question: have I ever gotten
Right.
employed? Have I ever gotten a job? Because now your brain needs
you
evidence.
need evidence. Yeah.
Your brain now needs evidence. Well, yeah.
Yes, I have.
I'm a loser. I'm always broke. I'm never going to have any money. No, that's not true.
Yeah.
Challenge that by saying, have I ever been able to have money? Well, yeah, it was a couple of years ago, but yeah, I was able to amass some money. I got a new car. We're doing well. Okay. So that thought is not true.
So you're deconstructing the negative thought.
Then if you remember, there's more negative thoughts. If you don't go to the next step, the likelihood of a different negative thought creeping in is very high. So here's how to eliminate that from happening. And you and I and Susan and Bill and Sally out there, we're all in control of this next step as well, which is gratitude.
Mhm.
Because the brain cannot, it's a one-way, the nervous system and the brain are a one-way highway. I cannot think about anger and rage and joy and happiness simultaneously.
Right.
It's like they can happen quickly. I can jump between the two quickly, but not simultaneously. So now replace, challenge the thought, say no, crush the ant, challenge it, find truth, which is, yes, I used to have money. Okay, it's possible I can get some money. Now replace that with some gratitude and be specific, as you point out.
Mhm.
Be very specific. It's not about, I'm grateful for my family. Get specific.
Yeah.
Who in your
Who
family
in your family? Why?
and why?
And what is the story that you can attach that brings about an emotion? So if somebody says, I'm grateful for my family, right? There's nothing. You haven't engaged the nervous system in there. But if you say, I am so grateful for my wife or my spouse because they made cookies last night and we sat and had a cup of tea and it was the nicest visit. And I really, really appreciate that gesture of kindness.
Hold it. You know what's happening right now as she's saying that out loud? There's no automatic negative thought.
Right. Yeah. It's
Possible.
reprogramming, right? Already.
It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
So as I begin to focus on that, the nervous system begins to relax because you're in a position of safety. So all of those negative thoughts have a fight or flight response. They put the nervous system into this sympathetic response, which is fight or flight. So you're always running from something, or there's always danger. So the more evidence you can give to your nervous system that everything is safe, everything is calm, I'm well taken care of, I have people that love me, I'm connected, I have food, whatever it is, then your brain comes back to that more idle, which is just a rest and digest, which is where we want the brain to sit most of the time.
And this is some good stuff. I really get into things like this.
High
I
five.
love talking about stuff like this. Yeah, because it's amazing how much you can continue to learn, and you think you're doing really well, and then you find out there's so much. I've said this in some of my public speaking that I believe there is no finish line when it comes to bettering yourself,
Heck
right?
no.
Now, there's such thing as goals, right? I can set a goal and I can reach a goal and make another goal. However, when it comes to working on becoming a better individual, training your thoughts to think better things, stop
Mm,
looking at life through a straw, I believe it's ongoing, continuously.
right.
And I want to share with you guys really quick that I've shared a few times on the show. I took this coaching class, and they gave us homework. And someone like me, I didn't do good in school because I couldn't stand sitting in a classroom for longer than 10 minutes, and I wanted to be outside doing something. And homework, whenever they said homework, man, my wall went up, and I'm like, yeah, there ain't no homework
Mm,
on my end. However, our coach gave us some homework, and he gave us a piece of paper that had 7 affirmations on it.
yeah.
He says, I want you to memorize these. And he says, and then I want you to look at yourself in the mirror, stare into your own eyes, and I want you to repeat every single one of these and believe it. Me, where my ego was at that time, and this was about probably 6 years ago, about 6 years ago when this happened, I'm like, oh, I got this. Right. I've been working on things like, no worries, man. I'm going to love this homework. Right. I got it. And he says, when we come back next week, you're going to report on what happened. So I go home and I'm reading through these affirmations. I'm like, all right, I got it. Go into the bathroom, look in the mirror, and I start saying these affirmations. I think it took me about 3 days before I finally realized something. I didn't have it at all. I wasn't even close. The reason why is every time I went to go say one of those, I looked away, and then I'd look back. Then I'd go to say something and I'd look away and I looked back. That told me right then and there, I did not believe anything I was saying to myself at all because I couldn't even look at my own eyes. That taught me a very, very valuable lesson. So it crushed my ego really quick. I'm like, wow, I'm not as cool as I thought I was.
Right.
So I can see what your point is with all this, and doing things and staying busy and putting more emphasis in it, right? By explaining, just not saying it, but also by explaining things
Right.
And doing, to
and
put
doing.
an action. You've got to take action.
Yeah,
And the action is the key. And as Susan has pointed out, consistent action
Over
over
time.
time. So,
Yeah.
listen, we've talked a lot about our residential program. We actually have, with the pandemic, it caused us to reevaluate things because in Canada we had a lot of shutdowns. It was pretty brutal up here. And what we've done is said, well, instead of impacting 1,000 or 2,000 or 4,000 people, how can we reach more?
Mhm.
And so we started Emergo Academy. It's at emergoacademy.com, if I can be that bold.
yes,
But at Emergo Academy, it's a community, and
Mhm.
it's a community for people looking for places for recovery of anything. As
Yeah.
you pointed out earlier, it doesn't matter what it is, the brain
Mm.
lights up the same way.
Right.
And so Emergo Academy, we've got all sorts of free things. We've got a 5-day challenge to turn your pain into your power. We've got weekly meetups and groups where people can come. And then we've got 3 really cool clubs. We've got a recovery club, which is we teach actualized recovery. And that's a very modest fee. It's a $47 a month, and no strings attached, no tricks. Come learn and see if it can impact your life, and if it does, great. Then hang out and stay. We've got private groups to be part of. But then this is what cued me to it. You said your coaching program that you went through. We've got a coaches club, and the coaches
Mhm.
club, we're teaching and training people to be recovery and crisis coaches.
With
And
our methodology. So the brain first approach to recovery is what we're teaching in our coaching program.
so we're so pumped because Ella, there's a lot of things. we're able to, our goal is to train 1,000 coaches and help them get 1,000 clients. Now we're at 1 million people plus. So that excites, and that inspires us to go to bed and get up. I mean, it's a passion of ours, and yet there are people who just need help right now.
Yeah.
And that's what the other groups are for. Whether it's a 5-day challenge, you want to jumpstart, you want to I just want some help now.
So we have live online meetings that are absolutely free every week.
Yep.
And if people just want to jump in for those meetings, we welcome that. And then if this is something that you're drawn to as a career, then first of all, Dave and I would be happy to talk to anybody one-on-one. If anybody thought that this was a career that they wanted to endeavor onto, we're both so passionate. So that's our impact, is to take what we learned over this dozen years of living together with these people and working with their families and training our staff over that 12 years too. We've called all of this Actualized Recovery. And the book, actually, we have written a book. It's coming out in February. And
I got a 3-ring binder over here. Papers.
A baby,
Papers.
Al.
No, I think birthing a baby's a lot easier.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this
I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't. But we're really proud of it. And so if people just even pick it up at the library for free, we want everything that we learned in this
We're
approach.
giving the book away free. If you come to Emergo Academy and you sign up,
Okay.
we are giving our book away
That's
free.
right.
We ask you to pay for shipping,
Yeah.
which is fair, but we're going to pay to print the book and we'll get
Yeah.
it to you. So if you come to Emergo, or you can go to Amazon in February, it'll be on an Amazon, and I think it's like $24 plus shipping.
Yeah.
So we're trying to save people. Like, this truly is
Yeah.
a community, and we want to give and support people. And then we want to have the opportunity, if you really want to dive in deeper, we'll go deeper with you. So that's the club. So EmergoAcademy.com. It's a fantastic place to come and join us and be part of our group and maybe get the book for free.
Yeah. Just pay shipping and handling, as they say, right?
Well, that's fair. I don't want.
Yeah, it is fair. No, it's
we
actually
won't stay
fair.
in business if we pay for everybody's shipping and
Yeah,
handling.
of course. Of
So,
course.
but we will invest in all of this, in the printing of the book, and all the knowledge has gone into it. So we're not looking to make a buck on the book. We're looking to share our knowledge and create a community.
And for
Yeah.
people that every week we have an Ask Us Anything where we're live. People can send in their questions. They can come on live. It's interactive. We just want to get the methodology out and the principles to as many people as possible.
You know, I love that you guys have looked at this, and I'm saying that so freaking serious, because watching my ex-wife go through 8 recovery centers, right? And watching all the steps that she went through and all the stuff that she was learning and stuff I was kind of picking up from it. I remember getting a call from one of her public defenders once, and he said, "Al, they're about ready to throw her in jail for a long time." Right? That's how bad things were getting. And he goes, "I don't know what to do. Do you have any suggestions?" And I said, "Yes. And I don't know if there's any places like this around, but she needs to be sent to a place where someone can get inside of her frickin' head." And of course, I didn't use that nice of a language, because that's how forceful I was about it, right? Because
Right.
I knew finally, after a amount of time, it was all coming from inside here.
Right.
I knew it. I could feel it.
And do you mean physically the brain? Like
Yes,
function,
I
drive,
miss
everything. The brain isn't function, and it's not the person's fault. There's traumas, and those traumas, we think of emotional traumas as being the catalyst, but they're not, Al. There's physical traumas, things like concussion, things like food poisoning, things like flus that have happened. They physically change how the brain functions.
Well, emotional traumas or physical traumas to the brain,
Right.
the brain doesn't care. It's a trauma.
Right.
And so
and
the
then
brain,
there's chemical traumas.
well, that's
So you
that
can
could be a physical one too.
Right. So any of those change how the brain functions. And typically when we would sit down with clients, and we'd go through a history, there would be something, some event that was the tipping point. And I can think of one young man that came in. He was a father of 6, came and he got a new job. His new job was working with a lot of chemicals. And
He was in the agriculture business.
right, everything changed,
And
right?
went out to the fields, and he was looking at fields and all the spraying and all the chemicals.
Right.
But he was exposed to this over and over and over, and that impacted his physiological
Brain,
self
how
and his
brain
brain.
was
His
functioning.
choices changed.
Right.
And his wife looked at us and said, he's not the same
He's
guy.
not the same
And I don't
guy.
understand it. It started when did it start? About 2 years ago.
But every other professional was focused on what we said, the problem,
Yeah.
not how did the problem
So,
start, right?
I-
What led to it?
I want to go to something we believe in fully. First of all, 12 steps, if it helps people, or any program, if it helps people, great. But
Yeah.
those 12 steps were created in the 30s, and the 12 steps themselves in 1940, but Bill W. started it in the 30s in Akron, Ohio. And it is a spiritually based program, which then says one of the things that it says, I'm powerless over blank. I want to get this because you talked about your ex-wife. I don't believe she was powerless over anything. Now, if she showed up and walked into a bar or had a drink, okay, horses out of the barn, it's too
Yeah.
late. She may be powerless then. You have a line of cocaine. Most people who have a line of cocaine aren't stopping at one
Yeah,
line. They're going to
15
have,
minutes
you know,
in, it's
a
done.
weekend is disaster. But there are points and periods ahead of those decisions where you have power.
Yeah.
You know, where do I go? What do I do? I'm not, but if I was a recovering gambler, going to Vegas would be not a good deal, despite the fact I can get good shows
Good
at cheap
buffets.
hotels, good buffets.
Yeah.
But there's the point of where I have power in choice.
Right.
So going to San Diego and sitting on a beach would be a lot better than going to Vegas, sitting by the pool, if I have a problem and a history with gambling or drugs or alcohol. So in our approach of a brain first approach, it's not about 12 steps. There are some good things in a 12-step program, but it's not about 12 steps. Recovery is a brain thing.
Yeah.
And we talk about this in the book. And we've actually incorporated a couple things like community, which are really important. We touched on that a little bit, but there's more to it than that, as evidenced by this whole conversation
Well,
today.
here's the 5 principles. So what we came away with is physiology is really important. So looking at the physical body and particularly how the brain function. Psychology, we've got to look at how the mind is working. And we follow something called positive psychology. Then we've got to look at the spirit, right? This is what actually drives every one of us. It's the reason that we get up in the morning. It's our own gifts, and that has to be part of the solution. Community, and community can go either way. If you're still hanging out with the same people that are doing the same things, then it's going to be nearly impossible for you to create any sort of changes. So your community is picked very intentionally, and we talk more about that in the book. And then number 5 is your lifestyle, and creating the lifestyle to support what it is you want. And this is really important. So if most of the people who came to us for our program, we'd say, what do you want? And they'd say, I don't want to smoke. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. Well, there's nothing you can do with that. So let's take the smoking. What is it that you actually want? If you're not smoking cigarettes anymore or whatever you're smoking, what is it that you see in your life that's going to improve? And when we could get them to focus on what it is they want, well, I want to be able to walk up a mountain. I want to be able to play with my kids. I want to smell better because I don't like the smell of whatever that is. So whatever it was that was specific, now you've got a tenable goal. Now you can achieve that. And that's what your lifestyle is.
Susan's talking about if you focus on what you don't want,
right,
versus what you do want. And the great analogy, you may have heard this before, is go to a restaurant and tell the server everything you don't want.
Yeah, they hand you the
It
menu
doesn't
and you
work
say,
that
oh,
way.
I don't want
So
anything with
this
lettuce.
is the same thing in addiction or in recovery. If you keep talking about what you don't want,
Right. And
the
you keep the stories.
brain is a very difficult time.
Yeah.
If you change that and really question what do you want,
Right.
the brain begins to change
Yeah.
and reform and restructure itself. Welcome to neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Through focusing on what you do want. And
So
it's go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, no.
I'm just saying it's changing your wording around, right? So what was
Yes.
coming to mind is where I've heard people before, say when they ask if I go to the gym and they're like, yeah, I don't want to be fat anymore.
Right.
It's like, you know what? Instead of
Right.
saying that, why don't you say, I would like to be thin? Because now you're
Well,
taking away
but
that
that
fat,
still
right?
isn't tenable. That isn't,
Okay.
so
Okay.
it has to be, what is it? I want to fit into the dress that I have in my closet.
Yeah. Why?
That's my goal.
My question to
Okay.
you, if you said,
And hang on. And the reason I want that is because when I'm able to get into that dress, I know that these good things are going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. So it's very personal, Al, but it has
Okay.
to be very, very
but
specific.
that's why when you said I want to be thin, I would just say why?
Yeah.
Why do you want to be thin?
Yeah. What is it about being thin?
Well, I've got a high school reunion coming up. Okay, well, if that's your motivator and that's the emotion behind that, let's explore that and go deeper
Right.
into that.
So why do you want to be thin showing up for your high school reunion?
What's that about?
Right. Well, I want right? Whatever the personal outcome is for you. So you've got to drill down. And when you get to that why, Al, the person actually physically changes. It's like they go, here's what I want. And you can physically see that's your why. That's going to be your long-term motivator to get you from where you are today to the end. And you've got to work with people. And that's what we teach in our coaching program.
Wow. I love all this stuff. This is so great.
You know what? I just
Wow.
I love talking with you. I mean, because you get it.
Yeah.
You're curious.
Yeah.
To me, you're asking very reasonable and grounded questions that I think everybody asks. And to just go a little further on the last part of our conversation with the three of us, if somebody doesn't want to drink, I don't want to drink anymore. No more alcohol in my
Right.
life. That's like saying on January 1st, I'm going to get into shape because I don't want to be fat anymore.
Right.
And we all know that how long that lasts is about
Very
a week
short-lived.
or 10 days, and you're done.
And if your goal is to be sober, I invite anybody to look up the definition of sober and the word sobriety. And if that's what you want, I would definitely rethink that, because it's very somber. It means that you're boring. It means that
there's no fun left in life. There's no energy, no fun in
and that's
life.
the definite, and words are important. So the
Yes.
definition of sober and sobriety is not a destination. It actually sounds like a punishment. But what is it that you want? Well, I want to be vibrant. I want to have a relationship. I want to have sex. I want to connect with my kids. That's the meaning in life. So what we do is we talk about what is your extraordinary life, right? What do you imagine as your extraordinary life? And how do we begin that lifestyle?
Can I read us all the definition of sober? Can I read this real quick?
Please.
Not being under the influence of alcohol, serious, grave, solemn in nature, calm in disposition, not excessively bright or flashy, given to or marked by restraint and moderation, very pragmatic. I mean, can I not have color in my life and enjoy my life?
Right.
It was the life of the party.
Yeah.
So you still want to be that. You want to be the enigmatic person. You want to be the fun. You want to be the life. So words are really important. And we talk about the importance of words. And it's like you said, if you focus on what you don't want, that's focusing on the negative, and you'll never, ever be able to achieve it. So I welcome people, instead of saying I am sober, what is it really? What is it
What do you want?
what do you want? And what is it that you bring to this world that is full of vibrancy and full of love and full of whatever it is that you want?
Especially after you say the two words I am. right? Because I
Oh,
believe those are very
Yes.
powerful.
Okay,
Oh,
okay, wait.
yeah.
I like to say,
Thought
I
we're
like to say,
wrapping up.
I like to say the words that follow I am follow you.
All right,
Right.
so I thought we were wrapping up, but you just kicked another door open. So let's go to AA. You know the phrase.
Yes,
I
yes,
am
I
a drug
am.
addict. I am, a loser by all contexts. Replace alcohol, gambling, whatever it is.
And
I
you're
am.
stuck in a box.
Those words are so
So
powerful.
powerful.
Like, why are we labeling now? That's why, because that's what happened in the 1930s.
Right.
And
it goes
I
back
get
to
it.
that shame, right? That was the way that our grandparents did things. If you go
Mhm.
back in generations, shame was a big part of behavior
And
change.
parenting. If you go back in the
Right.
40s, 50s, 60s.
We're all about the same age. That was our
Yes.
parents were the school of shame.
So we don't believe in labeling. This goes now back to an earlier part of our conversation. We believe in greatness in everybody. Greatness. No 9-year-old girl wakes up and goes, I can't wait to go and fail my math test.
Right.
It doesn't happen. What we learn though through life is to quit trying at times because it's painful. I keep failing. But nobody wakes up and wants to get fired from their job. Nobody wants to end up in jail with a DUI.
Yeah.
There's nobody this morning. There's no one in North America this morning that woke up and went, I can't wait to get so drunk tonight that I end up in jail with a DUI.
Right.
Right.
Or disappoint
Okay.
my family.
Now you are responsible for your actions, but what if the brain is driving that?
Right.
So are you really an alcoholic, or do you have some other deeper challenges that alcohol is masking and covering?
Right.
So that's what our groups are about. That's what our clubs are about at Emergo Academy. That's what we teach to people is let's lose the shame. Let's lose the labels. This is a place of hope. This is a place of transformation. And we are just excited to be able to share this message. So excited. The book is free.
Right.
That was a new decision we made with our publishers is we said, how can we get it out to the most people? And they said, if you just cover shipping, you can have it printed and send it out to people. So that's our gift. That is our gift to everybody come February when it's out.
I love the brain first approach. I really do. I think you guys are doing amazing work and I'm grateful. This sounds crazy. I'm grateful the pandemic hit in 2020 so you guys could shift, right? Because really that's what happened. It
Yep.
shifted
Yep.
and it turned into something I think is amazing because I am a true believer now, and I have been probably for about the last year and a half. The majority of the recovery centers, at least here in Utah, I think need to really restructure completely. It worked possibly, and I'm not knocking them because they have saved a lot of lives.
Hey,
They have
when you have
definitely
the tools
saved a
that you
lot of
have,
lives.
right?
Yes.
It wasn't available. We didn't know about
Right.
neuroplasticity until the year 2000. So when you look at that in terms of change, that's 24 years ago.
I'll give you something every program could do this weekend, and they can implement this this weekend, zero cost, every single program. Here it is. When someone is angry or agitated, stop the program for them.
Yeah.
And do this at home. If a spouse or a kid is agitated, do the same thing. Stop. No more talking.
Don't talk.
Don't talk. Don't sit them down in a therapist. Don't put them in an office. You're going to get more of this. Move their body.
Yeah.
Here's what you do. You throw them a basketball and say, go out in the driveway and shoot some hoops. You take them out for a hike and do not talk. Get them to feel the energy of the natural environment and move their body. Here's why. When you move your body, you change what's happening in your brain. Stop talking when someone is agitated and really ticked off and really frustrated. And it can just be because I'm craving something.
Right.
So physically move your body. And if you could do it outside, do it out. That's much more preferred. But move the body. And the basketball courts that we used to have, and the
Oh, we did
basketballs,
pickleball, Al. We did basketball. We had
unbelievable.
badminton.
And 20 minutes later,
That's
somebody
therapy.
who's raging or about to rage, and you give them the ball, and they beat the hell out of the ball in the driveway, and they
Mhm.
bang it against the wall, and they shoot
Mhm.
some hoops, and they hit the ball, and 20 minutes later, they look at you and go, I don't
I don't
remember
even
why I
remember
was
why
mad.
I was so upset.
So there's something
Right.
every single program could do. Stop talking about being angry when they're angry.
Yeah.
Move your body. Same thing at home. By the way,
We said
don't
this.
give kids timeouts.
Right. We said we wish we had known this when
Oh.
we were parents of young children.
Yeah.
Is timeouts do nothing. In fact, they really get that thought embedded into the brain. So again, it's about movement.
Tell Jane or tell Bill or your little kids, you go for a bike ride,
Yeah.
go for a walk, take the dog for a walk, and let's talk.
I don't care if you play patty
in 20,
cake.
we can talk in 20 minutes.
Like it's interrupting that pattern with something physical changes everything.
I love that. And I believe that wholeheartedly because I've seen it even with myself, right? Because I'm one that when I start getting angry, I start cleaning.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Oh, me
I
too.
start cleaning.
I think sometimes Dave likes to just light me on fire, so everything will get cleaned out. Yeah, I think he instigates something because man, oh man, there's nothing. But you're right. As you're doing that, Al, your brain is working through this emotion.
I remember that one time in our marriage that you cleaned because of me. That was one time.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Just one time. So a couple questions I always ask the guests right around the end of the show. And you can answer both, you can answer one of them, it doesn't matter. Whatever comes to mind. What did you want our listeners to gain from today's show?
Mm.
And what would be your main message?
I want everybody to understand that the brain drives behavior, and that if you're beating yourself up for something, it's probably not your fault, but it is your responsibility now that you know that the brain drives behavior. And so that's my message.
Gosh, that's really good. Dave, you have anything to
Yeah. The one message is similar to Susan's. It's brain first, not brain only.
Mhm.
It's brain first is
Right.
my message. And the message of hope is if you've struggled to find a solution and bounced around and beat yourself up, come to emergoacademy.com. And I mean this. There are so many things that are free. More than half of what we do online is free. We try to make everything live because I can't stand recorded stuff.
We don't do well with recording, so we've made the decision we like to be live.
We've got us and coaches there, but come to this community, find a place where it's a brain first approach, understand and learn what that is, and bring that into your life or not. These are your choices. But that's the offer of hope, that if you've struggled to find a place that, our whole program in the book is Actualized Recovery. It's not about 12 steps.
Mhm.
Recovery is a brain thing. So
Mhm.
come and join us. If that resonates with you, come and join us. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay too. But this is where we're coming from.
We have two editors that are working on the book, Al, and their biggest challenge is they keep saying they get lost in reading it and they forget that they're editing it. So they said the book is so good and it has, and for everyone, this isn't just about people who we say are addicted. That this is for everybody. We all have things that we do repeated patterns that are sabotaging what we could be doing. And so that was a real compliment when both editors are saying they can't even look at commas and things.
Join our team. We call them Recovery Coach Warriors. We got a great graphic of a samurai warrior. But it really is, a warrior is an honorable figure.
Yeah.
And come and do battle with us.
Yeah.
As a internationally certified recovery and crisis coach. Come and do battle with us. I love saying that. The John Travolta movie. Remember the John Travolta
Michael.
movie? Michael, he's an angel.
Yeah.
Such a good
do
movie.
battle.
So yeah, if somebody that is listening today feels like they want a new career or they want something different and they want to give back and they know that they've got the skills, Our next group starts February 15th.
February 8th, we got a master class, February 5th. And then well, we run 4 of them a year. Just come online, check it out. There's free newsletters. There's so much free stuff. And the reason why I'm stressing the free is we want to impact and help,
Yeah.
100,000 people this year. And if we can do that, man, does that bring meaning to our lives and our careers and our message. So
Yes, it does.
there you go. There's our message of hope for people who have tried other things. Think you're a failure.
think
You're
you're
not.
missing-
You're
And
not. a failure.
Al, I think you said something when you talked about your wife. There are so many people who showed up and they would do this.
Oh my
I
God.
know it's here. There's something wrong with my brain.
It's
If
true.
you have done that, if you have seen somebody do that, then understand this is a blessing and a gift from God, because you are being shown that, yes, this is what needs to be looked at first. So yeah, probably 90% of people who came innately knew that the problem
Oh,
was in their head.
here's a great part. For 2 years, we've been testing all of this virtually because we've run a brick and mortar business.
Right.
Can we actually really make a difference
Yeah. Is it
virtually?
efficacious?
Like that was a reasonable question. I'm
Right.
an old time school guy, teacher, and educator by trade. Can I actually make a difference on
Yeah.
this thing called Zoom?
Yeah.
And the answer resoundingly is not just yes,
Blew us
and
away.
sometimes even more so, because people are in their home environments.
Right.
The stresses are normal and real. They've not been removed into a sanitized environment, which sometimes is important. But the majority of people that we've worked with virtually,
Yeah.
we've seen more significant change in a
Because they
shorter
can make the
period of time.
change immediately. So what they said is they were able to get off of the session and begin to implement things in the home with the family right away, and not have to wait that 4 to 6 weeks and try and implement things when they got back home. So it blew us away, Al.
Yep.
The ability for us to have an online program and an impact for people was far greater than we had ever imagined.
Wow.
All right, we got to let Al go because it's going to be supper time in about 6 more hours.
No. What time is it there around Alberta?
We're the same as you. We're the same. We're mountain time, same as you.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
good to know. Wow. All right.
Well, all you got to do is come out your door, turn north, look
Yeah.
north, and we are right above you.
Yeah.
Just
The
right
next set
there.
of mountains that you get,
Yeah.
they're us.
Okay, well, that's towards Idaho.
Okay.
No, just a
Come
little east of Idaho, right above kind of Billings, Montana. You just look
Okay.
towards Billings, right
Yeah.
above. We
Crossing
sit right
the
on top of
border.
that.
Come a couple of hours and you'll find us.
Wow, I love it. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your afternoon to be with us today. I mean, this is I doing 240 something shows. I have some favorites, and this is definitely one of my favorites. Yeah, you guys are on my favorite list. This is great information what you shared. I love what you guys are doing. I believe there needs to be more of this, right? And I'm hoping that down the road, I can be one of those people to start helping making a change. I'm doing my best just with the show and stuff right here, and a little bit of public speaking. However, I want to take it a lot further because we talked about it at the beginning of the show. I know why I lost my job 14 years ago, because this was the path God wanted me to be on. And I'm very huge in spirituality, and I've worked hard to really connect with my spiritual side of things. And I get reminded this often. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to go. And certain things and certain individuals keep popping into my life uh, that are proving it, right? It's going, yeah, this is the direction you're going, and make the most of it. So guys, thank you. Thank you so much with everything you guys are doing.
I'd love to stay connected, Al. And I want to offer to you, you're not trying to make an impact. You
You are.
actually are. No,
Thank
you
you.
no, and I
Yes.
really want you to get like this is powerful, this conversation. And you've had 240 plus conversations. I know, I guarantee you have made a positive impact on people's lives. You ain't trying, my friend. You're getting it done.
Yeah, and thank you for correcting me on that, because I do have a friend tell me that that's a word that I'm working on getting out of my vocabulary. So is the TRY job.
And you can ask people out the other side of addiction. You can engage people in that conversation. What does that mean to each person?
Mm.
Yeah.
So you can turn this into a very powerful statement for any guest that you have or anybody, any talk that you have, and you do a lot of public speaking. The question is to engage the audience. What does the other side of addiction mean to you? And you will be there will be so many amazing answers coming back. And that's what drives all of us. That's the spirit part that you're talking about, that you to tap into people's spirits, ask that question.
Thank you. I definitely will. I'm glad that you brought that up because I never thought of that. So thank you so much.
I want to leave my last closing remarks based on Yoda.
Okay. All righty.
All right, based on the wisdom of Yoda here with Star Wars. For those who haven't watched it, do or do not. There is no try.
There
I
is no
love it.
So try and stand up.
Yoda wisdom.
No, you can't try and stand up. You do
Right.
or you do not.
Right.
Try and stop drinking this weekend. Nope. You do
Right.
or you do not. There you go. There's my last thing, unless you ask something else. Because
I love it, Obi.
yeah, Obi. Yeah, the Obi with the beard. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, guys, stay on. When I get ready to sign off, stay on. I want to chat with you just for a quick second. So, guys, thank you to all our listeners, all our guests, and all our past sponsors. Guys, again, I say this at the end of every show. None of this would be possible if it wasn't for you. You guys are the ones that are making this a show, a hit, really, and a show. And I love the remarks that I get, and it's so cool when I go out to recovery events and someone comes up to me and they say, "I watch your show." That really, really makes me feel good. So thank you again, guys. It's all because of you. And remember this: addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.